It's Macy's Labor Day sale, so gear up as summer cools down with 30% off timeless looks from Levi's and specials like 30 to 50% off statement-making shoes for her and 60% off luggage from Samsonite and more. Or use your coupon or Macy's card and get an extra 20% off more great deals. Plus, Star Rewards members can earn rewards even faster during Macy's Star Money Bonus Days, going on now. Savings off regular sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were yelling at another car while driving, let me say it again. You need to calm down. Yelling is just making everyone as stressed out as you are and letting them all know that you definitely aren't trying to save with Progressive Snapshot. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't yelling at another car, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
Hey everyone, welcome to Webcology on WMR.fm. It's the 1st of September, 2022. Needless to say, summer's almost gone. It's the 1st of freaking September, 2022. It's Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media, Dave Davies from Weights and Biases. Dave, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic today. How about you, Jim?
I'm doing good. It's beautiful late summer day at the very beginning of starting in September in Canada and in most of the northern United States. That's when kids go back to school. And when kids go back to school, that's when winter begins, and winter is terrifying. So in this part of Canada, and then again our neighbors just to the south, this is a really bittersweet, wonderful time of year.
Yeah, I'm on the West Coast, so it's a little different here. It's like, it'll get a little gray and kind of a bit of rain.
Well, again, this is this is the time that teaches us most about entropy, about the the death of all things, the impending death of all things, and it's a very philosophical time. And I don't know a lot about art. Actually, that's not true. I know a hell of a lot of art, including what I do and I don't like. It's philosophy I don't know a lot about, but I know enough to know that life is weird this way. And weirder still is a decision of the Colorado State Fair to award first place in the digital arts category to Jason Allen for his AI-generated work, Theater D'opera Spatial. Now, to be fair to the fair, Theater D'opera Spatial, is a very fetching painting, mixing the television and film genres by combining transportative properties of like a friggen Stargate with the tragic and somehow erotic and stately qualities of the royal court of Padme Amidala. To be sort of unfair to everyone else in the competition, the painting, like all digital arts, is more of a rendering, and this painting was done entirely by a computer, not on a computer, by a computer, because it was done by AI. Now, it should be noted that Mr. Allen, who's the CEO of a Denver-based video game company called Incarnate Games, he's been 100% upfront about who he is and how the work was created. He's not cheating. He didn't grant himself a prize. He has been bemused. He's not the judge. The judge has granted him the prize, not him. He has been bemused by people's reactions, given he says he spent hundreds of hours experimenting with the commands given to the AI before settling on what he thought were the top 3 images, one of which was Theater D'opera Spatial, the one that won the award. So obviously his taste and his top 3 were good. Eventually there's going to be a category for AI created art in most competitions, but it kind of raises the question on the future of and on our ideas about art. Welcome to Webcology, friends. We're not sure how friendly the future is, but it does continue to promise to be interesting, and at least we'll know if we like it or not.
Well, and one could say that the purpose of art is to evoke emotion. And this piece has definitely done that.
It has. What do you think? I mean, I think the Colorado State Fair did this on purpose to generate controversy and to get us talking about the Colorado State Fair. 10 out of 10 for marketing. Yeah.
And I think this was just one of those things that had to happen at some point, so that exactly what you were calling, that it needs its own category, because the talent that goes behind making it is incredibly high, and it is creating art. It's just not creating art that we traditionally think of as art. Right. And it doesn't have somebody spending hundreds of hours with a paintbrush in hand. It has somebody spending hundreds of hours in front of their computer, right? Figuring out how to train models to produce something like this. So it is a different thing. But would I say it's not art? I've seen it. It is art. But yeah, you're
beautiful
right.
Image, sir.
Exactly. But in fact, it raises questions, which good art should do. Right, and it raises ethical questions, which good art should do. So I think it's served its purpose, but I do think you can't pit, and we're going to see more and more of this, you can't pit humans against machines, right? Like we just can't do that. We do different things. So I think in this context, I think it was fair that it get awarded. I think you're right. It was fantastic marketing. At the same time, it may have been the best art produced there, because I would qualify it as that. But yeah, I think it should have its own category, and what an incredibly rich category that will be.
Indeed. You know, I'm not old enough, but I'm almost old enough to remember when Bob Dylan walked on stage with an electric guitar and his audience walked out on him because it wasn't the art they were looking for.
Right.
But the medium kind of picked up, right? Okay. So if you've been watching the helpful content update that Google issued last week, and you were thinking to yourself, this hasn't been particularly helpful, you can stop with the jokes, because according to Google, the jokes themselves aren't particularly helpful. The helpful algorithm has the helpful rhythm is rolling out. It's going to take a while to roll out. Google has an awfully big index, and apparently they're going after everything. But people have been complaining and joking about, and then again saying that that this is a big nothing burger. John Mueller and Danny Sullivan, Google spokespeople, have again suggested this might take a while. Sit tight. That's helpful.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, one thing that we as SEOs, I think, can take calm in, and I can't know this for sure, but it's sort of how I'm interpreting this is it is going to take a while to roll out. Like, we can all see why, like we talked about this previously, it's a domain wide update, which that's obviously going to take a while. I have a feeling that there will then, like, there's always cascading, like butterfly flaps its wings kind of effect, right? So not only across the domain, but then that domain links and references other domains, and so all of that needs to roll out. So the joy that I get out of that is going, in something that large, there's a good chance Google might just like hit the snooze button on rolling out new updates until they can kind of get a feel for what it really did. So we might actually have some calm for a little while before the next big update.
Well, absolutely. And for people who've gained or lost suddenly on this, sit tight. This is the period of flux is going to be happening with this one most particularly. I was joking in an SEO forum the other day that it's not like we're back in the days of Florida when Google literally had to take the entire index and remeasure itself against the entire index, or remeasure every page against. And then somebody reminded me, actually, that's kind of what's happening. In a weird way, ultimately, that is what's happening. So this will take a while. Now, some folks have been suggesting that there's another algorithm out there that's in play, one that's messing around with the value of links. Google has come out and said, no, that's not us. If something is happening, it's not us, and it couldn't be happening because it's our system. So it's not them. There's no algorithm messing with the value of links since what was it called? Goodness. The last time they did this, I even had a little name for it, and I'm sorry, I just spaced the name. Outside of the web spam update that ran a few months ago.
Well, and something that I find interesting about that is it circles back to the butterfly. If people are feeling that links might be impacted on an algorithmic update, is it possible? And I don't know the answer to this because I don't know specifically how all the pieces work together inside the algorithms that are Google, but is it feasible that the changing of the helpfulness rating of a domain impacts the weight that it passes to a link to another domain that might be deemed helpful or not helpful, or might increase the value of helpfulness that's then associated with that domain? I would suggest or put forth that the answer is yes, that if a domain, if somehow there's some boost to a domain to go, we found that this site has generally helpful content. Oh, part of that helpful content is a link over here to this site. It probably has helpful content too. So there might be a little bit of that secondary. I don't know for sure because it's a complex algorithm and Google didn't call me up and go, this is how it works. But I would suggest that it's possible that as a secondary byproduct, it might be impacting links.
You've kind of reached the dog days, the long days of summer, when Google spokespeople reply creatively, this time with a poem. So there's, like I said, there's been a lot of speculation that there's a link evaluation algorithm running, and as you said, Dave, the butterfly effect is for real. The web spam update happened several months ago, and its effects could still be playing through the linkosphere. But so John writes back to Gary Eyes and to at Making 8. It's links in a big web with bots. It has the juice. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. It's links. I can tell you all about them. I mean, look at this thing. When I tried it with JavaScript, everything changed. Now that's beautiful, eh? Wow.
That is.
That should be studied in I don't know, SEO classes at universities in the literature section, the about 5-second log literature section.
Now, you know what I have to be thinking right now, like we're now talking about literature, which I think is funny, and I'm picturing poems that could be written by like GPT-3. How long do you think it is? We now have computer generated art winning art shows. How long do you think it is until a literary award is given to AI, like something that was generated by artificial intelligence?
That'll be a dark and rainy night when that happens, or dark and stormy night when that happens. You know what? Pretty soon, I would guess. I've been playing with AI generated content on a large site using I'm not going to say the AI spinner, because somebody who's listening might somehow get some clue out of this, some competitor, but I've noticed that while it might lift entire sentences from other competing websites, it really weaves those sentences well with its own original content. I'm kind of impressed, well, dismayed at the same time with what's coming out by this AI that a team I'm working with is working with. So it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. Obviously, like we're like, I'm playing around with this sort of stuff with one of our engineers, and sort of toying around with how far can you make it, and then fact checking it to see, like, can it write machine learning, like highly technical content, and at what level, and how wrong is it on certain things. And yeah, it's getting further and further along. That's for sure. And we're not putting the resources that say Google would be to it. And we know that, like, they're trying to generate content in their own understandings. Heck, that's what like Mum was kind of about, right? Is like them being able to like generate a picture of the world or a topic based on like variant sources, and sort of like grouping them all together and collecting it all together. So, or at least one of its purposes. So it'll be.
We've discussed this on the show before, and I think that most readers, or most listeners, if they just think about it, this is obvious. AI and machine learning is amazing with concepts that already exist. If it's been written about, then the machine learning was going to go out there and it's going to ferret it out and find it and learn from it and incorporate it into, and the AI is going to take that and make original sounding content out of it. But if it's something that the AI is sort of dreaming up a like how humans have light bulb ideas or innovative moments, inventive moments,
Right.
AI sucks at that. It hasn't, I mean, it's going to regurgitate somebody else's inventive moments, because AI in and of itself isn't inventive. It's regurgitative. But the thing that makes it different is it can draw from many more sources than we could even conceivably think of, given if provided those sources are already there.
That's a very, very good point. And it is one of the significant limitations, that it's only as good as its training set. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. And leading, of course, to questions like, how creative am I really? Like, am I actually creative when I come up with a solution to a problem that I haven't seen before, nobody's seen before? Or is it just like something that a machine could have come up with if it spent the number of years I have collecting the same information I have? Would it have come to the same conclusion, right?
There is nothing.
Am I creative?
There is nothing new under the sun, Horatio. I've heard said. But I mean, and also IBM did this experiment like sometime in the 70s, mid 70s, where they figured that every conceivable rock and roll chord in rock and roll, in every conceivable combination, had already been played. So no matter what, you're plagiarizing somebody else. So who knows? I mean, like, yeah, we build our thoughts and our art, our software, our SEO philosophies on the shoulders of giants. And there's so much that's gone before. So honestly, it's really hard to quantify good writing and good art, but you know it when you see it. And these days, you still know AI when you see it, but it's getting so much better.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we going from there? Like, holy jump, that was a fun one to jump off with.
Yeah.
Have you seen, here's a sad one. This was published in Search Engine Roundtable, and you know, Barry's been around since the very beginning, so he's got a soft spot for it. But you should see the sad and lonely Yahoo pictures.
Oh, yeah.
You remember the first time you were in Silicon Valley, you were going to San Jose, probably coming from San Francisco airport, and on the way to San Jose, you got to go through Sunnyvale. And as you go through Sunnyvale, you see Yahoo headquarters. And this is like back in the early 2Ks when everything was still big and new. And so your heart went, oh my God, it's Yahoo, holy jumping. Well, that's a faded shell of its former glory with imprinted letters at the top of buildings. You can't barely even see the Yahoo anymore, but you know it was there. Yeah. Anyway, moving right along as time will. That's just very sad. So Twitter is testing an edit button. If you are somebody who's registered for the Twitter Blue, if you're a Twitter Blue subscriber, that doesn't mean you get erotic or pornographic Twitter. That means you're paying $4.95 a month for the right to have, you know, added features. One of which is you have a half hour of editing time from the moment you hit enter or hit tweet. They've never done this before. Tweets will be marked with edited notation. But, you know, some people are suggesting this is the death of Twitter again.
Yeah, it's funny. We've all wanted an edit button, right? Like you see it and you're just like, ugh, like you've sent it out and there's a typo, right? Or something like that. Normally, for most of us, if you're not like, I don't know, like, not saying good or bad, but like somebody like Elon Musk, who in that half an hour will have amassed a ton of comments and a ton of reactions. If I put it out, yeah, there's going to be like, sorry, I'm not super like notable on Twitter. There's going to be like a handful of things. I could just delete the thing, right? And then that first like 5-10 minutes or after I see it, go, yeah, okay, I'm just going to delete, like copy, delete, paste, you know, fix my typo, post again.
The historic record has not been messed with.
Much. Yeah. Whereas somebody like Elon Musk, if he did that, there's no sort of going back. If it was like a typo, for example, After 5 minutes, he notices it. It probably has thousands of reactions and probably dozens of comments, maybe more, right? So he doesn't just have that. So the ability to edit there is great. But I think we can all see the problem is all of a sudden you've had all these reactions and now you can actually change the context of what you're saying with an edit button. It'd be nice if they had like two characters for change.
That does raise the question, though. Is Elon Musk within 30 minutes of a lawyer at any given time? We're going to find out really soon.
Valid point. Valid point. For the most part, I do like it. I think one of the things that I think is smart, because I've done that enough, I usually think to double check my tweets before I send them out. But occasionally I'll be in a rush, and then as soon as it's posted, I notice it. It's like, oh, gotta delete. But sometimes it'll happen a little bit later. This actually might win me over to subscribing, because it would just save me that little bit of time, once or twice a month or something like that. And it's fairly cheap. And there are other parts of Twitter Blue. So what does it win? I don't think it's going to kill Twitter. I don't see how this would kill Twitter. Okay, if all the other things that have happened didn't, this isn't the big thing that it's oh, tons of bots, but you allowed editing, right? That's not what kills Twitter, in my opinion. But
no.
Anyway.
And for listeners who are keeping score, the court case dictating whether Elon Musk should be held to his words that he probably would have edited given half the chance, but didn't have it back then, or not, is still going on in court, and he might be 44 billion lighter by the end of it, or 1 billion lighter, depending on how things swing. God, what a weird world this is. We report this totally matter of factly, it's a billion here, a billion there. These people are idiots. Doesn't really matter. It just amazes me. If you're running WordPress, you got a security update you got to deal with. In fact, there's 3 fairly major vulnerabilities. Log in, open up WordPress, update, log out. You're done. But do it. Because somebody else is logging in and doing some funky stuff in your name. Maybe even convincing some elderly family member of yours to give away the inheritance. So it's in your best interest. Update your WordPress. See, I always try to make it in people's best interest to do these things. They're stealing your grandpa's inheritance. So get in there and do it.
I've now put a little sticky note to remind myself on my monitor, update WP. It's right, because I might forget, go for lunch.
Something I saw Barry had noted, again, Barry Schwartz, and I'm really glad he caught this, because I hadn't thought about this, But now that he noted it, wow, microdata formats. There was a conversation he found somewhere in Twitter. Microdata formats have been around forever. We talk about the importance of schema and microdata over and over and over again. There hasn't been a substantial update in microdata formats in almost 7 years.
Yeah.
I just think that's kind of neat.
That is kind of neat. I hadn't actually even thought of it.
There's little add-ons here and there. There's ways that you can add extra fields or field types, but there hasn't been a substantial change in how microdata is shared or written in almost a decade. And it's one of the most critical things you can have on a site or on a page.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I know,
Yeah.
It seems dull. I mean, for listeners' benefit, it is the last weeks of summer. Things do slow down, right?
I actually do find it interesting, though, that it is. It's an interesting point, and that growth is flat. How many times have we talked about it as a critical thing? I'm not saying that everybody should listen to us and do everything we say, but or even that everybody does listen to us to begin with, but if we're talking about it in the frequency that we do, which is at least once every few months, we'll talk about some useful feature and how important it is. It's not just us doing that, right? A lot of people are, and that its growth is is flat is a bit surprising, because
No.
the battleground for rankings gets higher and higher
Yep.
and harder, right? Like,
And
and
even
this is
if
just like such an easy one.
And even if you do rank, say you're one of the lucky 10, I'm sorry, lucky 9. That's 2022. It's no longer 10 blue links. It's now usually 9 blue links. So you're one of the lucky 9. You're shoved down almost below the fold. Now, luckily, search users know enough to trust the blue links. Don't trust anything else. Only trust official blue links. Google and Corp. And they will scroll down, and now you're kind of sort of below the fold, competing with a whole bunch of other blue links. And this is where sticking out like a really beautiful, graceful thumb comes in. And that's what you get with schema. You stick out like a beautiful, graceful thumb, not like a withered little pinky like all the other little blue links do. Yeah.
Good
Okay,
call.
that was a crappy analogy, but what I'm trying to say is use schema and people will notice your results. They'll see the rich results underneath. You'll like end up you'll end up informing the knowledge graph. So you might end up being a one box. Heck.
Yeah. No, I think like, yeah. And you know what? We'll probably be talking a year from now about how it's still flat.
Get yourself into shopping, get your images noticed. These days, get your videos noticed, and get a fairly accurate counting from Google on your YouTube activity, all through schema.
You know what's occurring to me though, Jim?
Mm?
Is some of our competitors might be listening. So don't, schema's flat. That's because it's useless. Don't worry about it. Focus on link building.
Yeah, yeah, link acquisition, absolutely. And actually, you know what? Link building is still important. It's still a web built around links. Going out and it's not 2017 anymore. Heck, it's not 2019 anymore. But yeah, no, I don't want to. I do want to make fun of link acquisition, but I don't, because it's still really important. But I think of all those companies that were built entirely on link acquisition and how the fallout was so bad for them. I think we're going to go through the same thing now with companies that can't do content and the schema to reflect that content electronically or digitally.
Yeah, well, something that hit me, I'm going back just for a second in our sort of tale or like our episode here. But we had talked a little bit earlier about no recent search algorithms focused on links outside of web spam, right? Like we were talking about that, 15, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And one of the things that occurred to me when I first read that and read the story around it isn't that interesting? That's why I sort of like made a little dig at links there isn't it interesting that one of two things has to be true? And I think one of them is more likely. Either John is saying Google's nailed it. They understand how links should be calculated. Took them like 20 years to get there, but damn it, they don't need to change it anymore. That's it. They got this. They got that nailed. Or they're paying so little attention to it now, and its weight is reduced to a point where they kind of can just believe it on autopilot and focus on other things. One of those two things kind of has to be true if they're not launching algorithms around it right now or updating algorithms around it.
Anyone else have trouble sleeping last night? And the night before that? Same. And I've tried everything, but it either doesn't help me sleep, so I'm cranky and tired the next day, or I sleep and then I'm drowsy the next day. Luckily, Seize the Night and Day is here. Go to seizethenightandday.com to learn more about insomnia and how you can seize the night. And carpe the diem. Make their mission your mission, because they will not rest until we all rest.
It's Macy's Labor Day sale, so gear up as summer cools down with 30% off timeless looks from Levi's and specials like 30 to 50% off statement-making shoes for her and 60% off luggage from Samsonite and more. Or use your coupon or Macy's card and get an extra 20% off more great deals. Plus, Star Rewards members can earn rewards even faster during Macy's Star Money Bonus Days, going on now. Savings off regular sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
So that I find interesting.
Well, actually, I totally hear what you're saying. And when it comes to links, I think that both are kind of true. The first iteration of Penguin was bouncy to say the least. Bouncy, then you wait a few months, and bouncy, then wait a few months. But they've been working on it and improving that ever since. And it's at the point now where Google doesn't care about dodgy links. Honestly, it cares about seeing patterns of manipulation. And I'm not sure it even cares about the links when it sees the pattern of manipulation, because it could just ignore them. They don't have to have an effect. But that's a trigger for Google saying, well, if they're screwing around here, they may well be screwing around there. So if Google sees you buy a bunch of links, it's not like 10 years ago where Google was going to punish you. You might even get a site-wide for bad behavior. That's not going to happen anymore. Google's just going, you're going to spend a whole bunch of money, and Google's going to ignore that you spent a whole bunch of money, and you'll be out that money. And some link company will be like, I don't know, whatever they'll do with their money. Who knows what they'll be doing, heroin or something, I don't know. But you'll be out the cash. Google won't care. And that's how that will go. No harm, no foul in Google's eyes. But the pattern might make them look at other parts of your website. And if you've been cheating there, you're probably cheating here, and then you'll get in trouble.
Right. You've drawn the eye of Sauron.
Something like that, yeah. All over something that was so 2007.
Right.
And Google, but Google still cares about links, because links are how Google, if it's a really simple formula. If it's useful, people from related industries who want their readers to have useful stuff will link to it. The web is so big, you'll eventually have a whole bunch of links.
Right. And isn't that a funny thing? Like it's sort of the circular conversation that always comes up with links. And I find myself in the same one, where I end up contradicting myself in a conversation about links. And then I'll circle back and go, but I was right. And then the logic will contradict itself. Is, should you be doing link building? Yes. Do these links that people are like acquiring hold value? In the same way, you would go yes and no at the same time, but it's always been thus. So should you hire a link building company? I guess it depends, but like where it almost leads to this circular, like it depends how it's being done. It depends if it's content based, I suppose. But like the art that we were discussing earlier, you kind of know a good link when you see it, but then there's these gray areas, right? Like where it's like, oh, okay, it's not great, but I've seen a lot of gray area, like that's not really a great link, but it showed up and it was perfectly natural. Like it just showed up on like a backlink profile where I'm like, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't seek out that journalist. And it's not super well written like this piece, but it's natural. It is what it is, but it could easily look like one in its wording that could have been purchased, right? So
here's something I've noticed over the years. It used to be like maybe even just 10 years ago, or even less, you'd have link building contracts that would be calling for 150 links a month from whatever specified areas, sites, interests, or whatever. Now those or similar link building contract for infinitely less money now is looking at 5 to 10 links a month. And they're very specific about the interest categories, usually drawn from like, Google Analytics or GA4. But it's the expectations are infinitely lower. So I think the expectation of quality is equally higher. Because before, with 150 links a month, like you knew you were getting a Cracker Jack box full of spam, like you just knew it. But it was useful Cracker Jacks, right? Yeah. Now you expect to get some fairly high quality items with your purchase. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you probably will, right? Like the content writing level will be higher, the placements will be better, the link will be put in more naturally and probably mixed in with a few others, right? Like where it just won't be what it is or what it was. But yeah, like but there we lead through the circular, like, but how do you know, right? Like how, and should you still, Should you engage that company? Like, yes, they're doing it in a way that reads a lot better, kind of appears more natural, does violate Google's guidelines. So should you? But if you don't, then you can't rank, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's a really
So yes, you should, of course, if you need that to rank.
right.
But again, don't be egregious, don't be stupid about it, and certainly don't give Google the reason to look at your website and go, oh, these people are behaving badly. And again, what, 5 to 10 new links a month? That's kind of expectable.
Yeah, well, and it recognizing that if that domain is allowing for that, that domain might be known to Google. And that doesn't mean you're going to get a penalty, but you have to be willing to put money out there and go, I'm buying 5 links and all of that money might be flushed, or 3 of those might be like just already filtered out, right? Because Google knows these domains aren't really trusted from a link standpoint. So if you're willing to like spend that money and hope for the best, or go on a large scale, I trust that I'll have enough to be worth what I'm spending, right? Like 1 month, this link, that link, they might be filtered out, but over the whole of my spend, it'll be worth it. I think you bring up a good point. It's a guideline, not a law. It's your business, not theirs. So you have to make the decision that is right for you.
Do you really spend a lot of time worrying about crawl budgets? This is a new, you do, eh? Okay.
Now, I have a very unique site in a very unique scenario that had problems based on crawl budget. They have been remedied, so I no longer worry about them. So, we did have problems with that area.
As electricity is a really expensive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Power, how this is something that webmasters are going to be coming up against in the future, and it's really important. This is one of the reasons why free storage is going the way of the dodo. It costs too much in electricity to keep the lights on in the server farms. Keeps too much electricity to keep the servers on in the server farms. So a lot of the free storage, Google is going after, is doing this right now with its email suites, forcing all people who'd been getting like, I think this is deadline week. People who'd been getting for years a free service from Google now have to start like ponying up like $5 a month. And again, this is because electricity is a very, very real cost when it comes to data and data storage. Mm-hmm. So and also websites are much, much larger, and our electricity and power needs are growing rapidly. So crawl budget is an important thing in SEO now, where it mightn't have been so important several years back. So soft 404s waste your crawl budget. Now, they waste a whole bunch of stuff. They waste the user's time. You might be getting a placement for them. You might actually be visible because there used to be something here. We expect there to be something here, or at least there was something here. The page is still resolving at 200, so it's still doing something. But there's nothing there. So in Google's eyes, it's a page without content. But it's also a page that resolves to a 200 rather than a 404 error, 200 status rather than a 404 status. So that's called a soft 404. When you sort of present to the search user that something's going to be here, Google expects something to be there, but Google finds after a couple of visits there's nothing there, but the page still resolves to it as a 200, so it's got to go check it out. And then it finds, in fact, there's nothing there, and serves up to you in Search Console a soft 404. That's what they mean, and it pisses them off. Get rid of them. Why do you have them? What are you doing? What you're paying somebody to be a webmaster or not? Probably not. And I know that your friend's cousin's neighbor had moved away years ago, but still get rid of these things.
Now, in defense of some sites, just a fun fact about why Dave hates JavaScript or single page apps is it is one of the problems with many of them is that they fundamentally and inherently do not deal with 404 well. You can't just sort of go, in most cases, like if nothing is there, 404, just the way the back ends of them work. So I think for folks, the big shout out would be if you have an SPA website, like one that I manage, or that I deal with that side of, keep an eye on them, like of your soft 404s in your error report, because the system, many of the systems can't be configured like a WordPress site to go, it's a 404. It just sends a 200 because it's sending that 200 code, putting the sort of framework out there, and then looking for the content to send in. Just for folks who don't have a JavaScript site to know why this is happening. And because of the order of events, you're not getting a 404 being sent, and so you just gotta have to wait for Google. There are other ways you can deal with that. Maybe I'll just save that for like an article. We can chat about that another time. But yeah, there's an exception to where don't fire your developer, because please don't fire your JavaScript developer if you're hitting soft 404s, because it's probably not their fault.
And don't fire your webmaster either. Half the time they don't even know.
Yeah,
these are old legacy pages. Like,
that's a good point, and that means somebody's like erasing the content. Like you could actually hit a soft 404 on a WordPress site if somebody published a page with no content, right? Like if you just had created a blank page and published it, there's a good chance that's something Google would pick up and go, that looks a lot like a nothing page. It looks a lot like a 404, like a soft 404 page. So it could have been like, maybe it was your fault. This thing showed up and you created a blog post with nothing on it, and published it. So
I have one client that has a truly impressively massive website. I mean, like it's endless ecom land. And part of their massive website, because they honestly, and they continue to place for it, they have discontinued brands in a special memorial section. Okay, now then they have the goods on all these products. It's written up, and if you're interested in something, you absolutely can't buy. Now this section of their website drives me nuts, and the owner of the website knows so. I've told them on several occasions how this just drives me up the wall and back again, because many of the pages will just contain an image or even be blank, just have the H1 mentioning the now discontinued product. I think that's, again, eating Google's wasting Google's time, wasting their search budget, their search crawl budget, and presenting Google with a Faustian bargain. They're really the only one to answer the question or query the user might have about these products. But I know Google doesn't want to serve up crap. Like, seriously, Google doesn't want to serve this up. They're like, why should they? It degrades the user experience.
Yep.
Okay.
And I assume that they haven't listened to you tell them that.
Well, we're in the middle of a spectacular, huge replatforming. So no, they haven't. Damn it, they haven't. I was hoping they would, because we are in the middle of this spectacular, huge replatforming. It's a perfect time, but no, many of those pages are still there, not all of them. So I will give it that.
Something on a similar topic that I got thinking, sorry, on the soft 404. So I'm sort of circling back to these like craptastic pages, but also the soft 404 part. And something else I think that's worth noting about these too, like if you were like, well, I'm not really worried about my wasted crawl budget. My site is small enough. Something else that I have to think about a soft 404 is basically Google is going, this page does not exist. This is them telling you this page does not exist. Through your site, somehow the crawlers have found this thing. So either there's external links to this soft 404 or there's internal links to that soft 404. Through whichever of those it is, PageRank is flowing and it is hitting this thing and dying on the table. So even if you weren't worried about your soft 404s from a crawl budget standpoint, give a look at the report, because you could probably recover some of the PageRank that is just like bleeding out to these 404s.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of little annoyance issues that you'll find in Google Console that are just like that, eh? Where you know you're just losing that little bit of energy, and it's like when PageSpeed Insights tells you to reserve resources by like minifying JavaScript or like compressing images and making them smaller. It seems like you're only gaining millimeters on the field, like little fractions of an inch, and you are.
Yeah.
But you're doing it on a page that replicates itself innumerable times in who knows how many seconds. How many times, how many times in how many seconds, like a lot. And that actually adds up.
Yeah. I mean, that's my favorite part about those sorts of things. It's like, I mean, it's the annoyance. You can't look to a term and go, oh, that term went from like page 3 to position 3 because we did this. No, but across an entire website, you can go, everything increased 0.1 position, right? Like where it's like a broad brush stroke, but in your analytics, all of a sudden you can see this move, right? And it's you won't see it in your ranking reports often because it's just so far spread out that there's nothing individually that's like, oh, there's my glory moment. But the big glory moment comes when you look at your analytics and go, okay, but clearly a bunch of things did better, because when I look at like Search Console, for example, my click-through rate improved or my average position improved. But when I look at individual queries, I can't really see it, or like a bunch of them are improving, but it's for like 0.1 position, which I always find fun to try and explain to people why it's saying the position's 4.3, right? Or whatever it is for a position in Search Console.
I chase after keywords when it comes to content. I tend not to chase after keywords very much anymore. I really just try to write as descriptive content as possible. I'm hoping that a very wide net will catch a whole bunch of keyword queries or types of query. But when it comes to the technical side of SEO, I'm not chasing a keyword ever. Or, I don't know. I have no idea how speeding the page up is going to affect this placement or that placement. I'm just hoping that a tighter ship will sail faster.
Right. Yeah.
Trimming the sails here and there will get you a better positioning against the water and the wind funnels, and that improves your voyage overall, which will, and this screwed up metaphor, raise your rankings eventually. Okay.
Well, we've talked about it a lot on this show too, and something I think is a good reminder for folks, because you and I have been doing this a long time. And when you see a problem, you need to, like, when something goes wrong, you need to find the source of the problem. Even if your page speed insights or like whatever like speed metrics you're using or these technical issues, even if they never amount to anything, like even if they don't impact your rankings ever at all, they don't even help a user ever at all, they're just an inert thing that you did and you wasted your time on. When something goes wrong, and it will, like something will always go wrong. Sometimes ranking, the tide will go out. You know what not to look at.
That's quite right.
You know what's not to blame. So you'll find the problem faster most of the time. So
Joe Whalen once mentioned the Zen of SEO. Now you're mentioning the process of elimination of SEO. Well, it ain't that, because I know it's perfect.
Right. And there's something to be said for that. Dot your I's, right? Like then you just have to cross your T's later if a problem happens.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know what? There's only honor in being a good webmaster. Yeah. Like seriously, there's no dishonor in making sure your website is as clean and well functioning as possible.
Indeed.
So Google is trying a new thing that I think is kind of cool on one level, and kind of, I guess it just sort of goes with the way culture's going on another. It's putting a little bug or a little notification under certain search results indicating how quick or how fast a read something might be. More than 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, quick read, little bugs like that. And they're experimenting with different ways to notify the reader, or notify the user, but what it ends up is this is a long article, this is a short article. Is that like something that they have to do for people who are wary of reading stuff?
Well, I think in a way they do, but here's a disservice that I think they're doing themselves and their readers. I can't even count the number of times I wanted a quick answer to something. I knew that it was a quick answer that I needed. It would fit the bill. And that quick answer is within a long article. It still took me under a minute to find my answer. Some weird Windows command, right? And the page itself might be massively long. I'm just looking for one shortcut. I jump to it. quick find, there's the shortcut, got it. It actually, the read itself to fulfill what my intent was, I just did this yesterday. When I was looking at a window that was off the screen, I need to find the shortcut to like move it back in when I didn't want to like resize everything. Anyway, the read itself was under a minute. And the page itself was massive because it had all of the shortcuts like that. So I think that's where a disservice might be there. If you looked and you just like trusted what it was and didn't understand what it was you were trying to look for, you might go, oh, well, I'm not going to spend 15 minutes trying to find a solution to this problem when I know that the solution is really, really easy. Fact was, it was a great site that I've now bookmarked that provided the solution really fast. So I think that may be one of their challenges. And that's a really quick example, but I can think of many like that where it's like, oh no, I only need this section of a page. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Like I don't need a whole like Wikipedia, great example, right? Like I'm not going to read the whole Wikipedia entry if all I want to know is what was the average rainfall over time in this country or whatever, right? I might be looking for. I don't need to know that the page itself is 15 minutes because I'm only going to read about 2 minutes of that, right? So that's where I think this sort of falls down, you know, but we'll see. I think in some forms of content, it does make sense. I think in some, like if I'm clearly wanting to read an article, maybe if it was a news story, you know, that might work because if I am going to read it, then I'm not just like chasing after a title. I'm actually looking to understand something that's going on in the world. Good for you.
Well, as the writer, I just hope it doesn't dissuade people from choosing good content, or that it doesn't push good content into the maybe some other time file.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as well. So we'll see. Does it stick around? Probably, because it'll help people, and then Google will start like going, oh, people like short content. No, people don't know what they want. They you know, they would pick a faster horse if you didn't give them a car, right? Like, you know, I don't know that it should stick around. Maybe it will, but I don't think it should for exactly what we're talking about here. I think it's not really accurate.
We're speaking of not very accurate. Oh my goodness, what a segue. We are closing in on the end of time, but if you're acting in the PPC world and you're working with Google Ads, Google wants you to know it's not you, it's them. Google, according to Search Engine Land, Google reports an issue that's affecting impression share and auction insights in Google Ads. It's been going on for 3 days. It is not screwing with your auto bidding strategies, and it's not screwing with how ads are served, but it is messing with what you're seeing in impression data and in insights.
Now, did you hear? Is this something that'll be recoverable? I don't know if that.
I don't know yet.
Came out. Yeah, so hopefully they can recover it because I always find it problematic. I don't almost blame them when it's organic stuff. I'm like, yeah, you're not putting a lot of work into that, but when I paid them for something, I expect accurate data.
Well, I think that it's not reporting, it's a delay in reporting. So when that happens, it's not like they're not recording the information. I think they probably are. They're just not getting it to the users or getting it to their dashboards. Now, I'm honestly going off of Ginny Maven's tweets here. She's now ad liaison at Google. She doesn't mention data loss, but she did use the word delay a couple times.
Okay.
So again, that suggests they're recording stuff, but it's just not getting. It's going from A to B, but not from B to C. So
right. Okay. See, and I hadn't had a chance to read that story, so I'm glad we closed up on it, and hopefully as helpful for our listeners as it was for me.
Yeah, but don't make any helpful jokes because it's not particularly helpful. That's one of the lessons from today. I think that's pretty much it. If you know what, go to Search Engine Journal, check out a piece on page speed insights. I really should have copied the author's name because I like noting who wrote these things. Give me a half moment here. Apologies to this author. I bet you it's Roger too. It's not. It's a Manic Ban. Really good piece on page speed insights. Heaven knows, as an SEO, y'all are going to be using page speed insights or GT metrics or whatever a lot more in the future.
Yeah. Yep.
So having a rundown or even just a refresher on what you're getting out of it is a good thing. I think that's all the news that we had for the week.
It is.
And that's good time. We're getting really good at this. So good that it might be worth informing people that this show is still looking for a sponsor. And if you're interested in sponsoring Webcology or any show on WMR.fm, please contact Brasco at WMR.fm. He will sit down, talk to you, get you set up, and put your words into the ears of thousands, dare I say hundreds of thousands of listeners over time. Okay, on behalf of Dave Davies from Weights and Bias, this is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media. Friends, you've been listening to Webcology on WMR.fm on the 1st of September, 2022. At least that's when it was recorded live to podcast. It's still warm enough out that you can get out and have some fun, so do it while you can. It's a long weekend. Happy Labor Day to everybody who gets a Labor Day. Enjoy the long weekend. Stay safe, rank well, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you next week.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of WebmasterRadio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of WebmasterRadio.fm is prohibited.
Progressive presents Forced Metaphors about bundling your home and auto.
When you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get great savings and round-the-clock protection, which is as beautiful as looking your firstborn child in the eyes for the first time. Well, that's a bit much. Maybe it's more like looking your second-born child in the eyes for like the third or fourth time. Point being, the savings and round-the-clock protection are really, really magical.
Forced Metaphors, presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
It's Macy's Labor Day sale, so gear up as summer cools down with 30% off timeless looks from Levi's and specials like 30 to 50% off statement-making shoes for her and 60% off luggage from Samsonite and more. Or use your coupon or Macy's card and get an extra 20% off more great deals. Plus, Star Rewards members can earn rewards even faster during Macy's Star Money Bonus Days, going on now. Savings off regular sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.